September 21 is the International Day of Peace. It is also the beginning of the National Family Week here in the Philippines. By combining these two celebrations, the Center for Peace Education brings to you peace at home, peace in the world. Hello everyone, my name is Gail Reyes Galang and welcome to our peaceful classroom.
Welcome to our sacred space,
our peaceful
classroom.
Our peaceful classroom is a sacred space where parents, educators, and other professionals come together to talk about ideas on ways to promote positivity and peace within ourselves, our families, and community. Due to the pandemic, many families are experiencing distress. Our families, in particular our children, are missing out on significant life events, birthdays, vacation plans, graduations, aside from meaningful social connections. Many adults lament that the youth today have lost so many opportunities. But instead of calling them the lost generation, speaking before the United Nations, BTS, a very popular K-pop group, refers to their generation as the welcome generation because of the many changes this generation is embracing. What a very positive way of looking at things, right? So today in our peaceful classroom, we wish to remind parents and other adults out there the importance of communication within our families. We may all be together at home, inside our homes, but that's not a guarantee that all is well. Even if we see each other every single day, parents can't assume that their children understand them and vice versa. So let's tune in and listen to our speaker, Carla Villanueva-Manas, as she talks about ways to listen so that our children will speak, and perhaps ways to speak so that our children will listen. And so now we go to our main talk, and I'd like to welcome our speaker. Our speaker, Carla Villanueva-Manas, is a professional certified exponential leadership, emotional intelligence coach, and coach trainer who specializes in leadership, team development, and building resilience in organizations. And because we believe that, of course, in our families, we are the leaders, it will be very applicable. She was recently awarded as Best Executive Coach at the Coach Awards 2021. So this is just new. And it's a body that recognizes coaches globally who push boundaries. So that's Carla. By the way, Carla is an alumna of Miriam College High School. She's my batchmate from High School 87. And she's very passionate about many things. Her 30 years of corporate experience with her last post as General Manager of CNN Philippines has enabled her to successfully support senior leaders in various industries to create breakthrough results. So she's one of MC's pride. And during the pandemic, I realized that Carla was one of those who got afflicted by COVID early on. But to give back, she has put together some groups. So she is founder of Coaches Cares, Coaches Advocating Resilience plus Empathy, and advocacy projects to support those in need through coaching. So she also founded the COVID Warriors Group and Allies sa Pinoy Frontliners, a non-profit group to provide support to frontliners. And she has been featured in numerous media outfits such as ANC, Manila Bulletin, Channel 7, among many other things. So let's all welcome back home my batchmate, Carla Villanueva-Manas. Hello, Carla. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Gail, and good afternoon, dear parents. Yes, Professor Gail was I'd like to request that I'll be sharing my screen. No, Professor Gail was actually my batchmate, but she was in the honor student. So when as Professor Malu said, your children, your daughters are in good hands. I am a proud graduate of Marinol at the time, not yet Miriam. So you're still Marinol at the time. And I think that my foundation has been very strong because of my education that I have gotten from now Miriam College. So good afternoon, dear parents. And today I talk about how to create peace at home. And the extent of this pandemic, as the counselors and our Professor Gail has said, has really changed the way we live. We've had to make adjustments in the way we study, we work, we shop, more importantly, the way we relate to each other. And this change can really be stressful to us. But even for all our family members, even for our kids, as we learn to transition in the close confines, staying at home day by day, spending so much time in close confines can lead to friction. It can lead to argument. It can lead to conflict. And so today, as per the request of the school, I am sharing with you some tips that can help us build peace at home and hopefully contribute to peace in the world. And how do we do that? How do we talk to our kids so that they will listen? That's always a problem, right? I heard somebody say, I think that they are not listening to me, so I keep on repeating myself. And how many of us are guilty of this? I will be the first one to raise my hand. I repeat it because I think that they're not listening to me, so I figure I'm helping them by repeating it. Or actually, by worse, I'm making it worse. And how do we talk? And how do we listen? So our kids will start talking to us. So for most of us, if not all of us, the desire to love and provide for our child or children is as natural as breathing. The first, as mothers, as parents, when we find out that we're going to have a child, we're filled with so much hope and so much love. But the truth is, in this day and age where the demands of parenting, the demands of work, the social media demands, increased financial demands and pressure, we are really struggling to communicate and feel truly connected to our children. And so today, let's talk about what's really happening out there. So what's the scenario? I'm sure you see this often in your homes. You ask your child, how was school? They'll say, okay. Okay lang. Aren't you gonna tell me more? Or they'll say, in their mind, as I heard about this from the other counselors, they're thinking differently from what we think is happening in their mind. And this is results of some study here in the Philippines of youth children from 10 to about 17 years old. They always think, what's the point of my telling my parents? They're not even listening to me, or they won't even understand, or worse, I don't even understand what they're talking about. So they'll shut down, and that's the reason why they don't speak, because they feel that we're talking in a different level. And I know firsthand that the more you push your kids, I have two children, by the way, the more you push them, the more that they will get defensive, and they will dig in their heels, and they will become reactive in the form of either passive aggressive, they will keep quiet but not do the things that you tell them to do, or they will explode, or they will shut down, or they will ignore you, making the situation worse. And when they are not exploding, maybe they are thinking, my parents don't have a clue. So what's the point of trying to explain myself? My daughter did a study on mental health. Ask her classmates, very small group in her school, and this was what was coming out, and she was already studying in a progressive school. My parents don't have a clue of what's happening to me. So what's the point of trying to explain myself? I'll just tune them out. So these are things that are really happening. So what did I do? I use what I learned as an executive coach to be able to, as Professor Gail said, we are leaders in our own home, or I'd like to think that we are leaders in our home and not our children. And after all, I figured if I spend so much time developing leaders at work and coaching leaders in their companies, why shouldn't I spend this much time and effort into developing my own children into leaders? And besides, they are the future leaders of our country. So why coaching? And what is the benefit of coaching? Number one is that it unlocks a person's potential, because coaching is not telling people what to do. It is actually unlocking their potential because they're going to be solving their own problems. Second is that it helps them learn and think for themselves. They will come up with their own solutions. And wouldn't we want that? They're not dependent on that we always have to tell them how to solve their own problems. The third benefit of coaching is it creates open and trusting relationships. Why? Because they feel that they are trusted and they are open. And then the fourth is that it empowers the children. They have a voice. They are now going to be heard. And the fifth is that it builds resilience. So today I'm going to be talking about just very quick tips. But let's start with some premises. What are the premises, or what's the foundation of my talk? The first is that the premise number one is that it starts with you. It starts with us, parents. As Bill O'Brien said, the success of an intervention depends on the interior condition of the intervener, the inner space by which we operate. So if we want peace in our homes, we first start with developing our own inner peace. We are what we project. So if we want to create trust, we need to be able to show them that we trust, regardless of what age. Regardless of what age. You don't just trust teenagers. You can trust even the younger ones. Give them chores. You will be surprised at what they can do. If we want to be able to come from a trace, be more open, for our kids to be more open to us, we also need to be more vulnerable and open to them. We need to tell them what we are going through, even our challenges. I used to come from an era where parents will just say, basta. You just follow, right? And you cannot really question. Now, let me confess something. I have been called intensely scary, but in reality, I was scared. I always, just like you, I want the best for my children. I wanted to provide them the best opportunities that I did not have. I wanted to ensure that they were equipped to deal with whatever challenges they faced. And I was scared. What would happen if I were not there anymore? My husband and me were not there anymore. Are they actually developing normally? All of these fears were there. And I thought it was rooted in love. But there was so much fear and this anxiety. I was bringing it into the house by every time telling them, don't do this, you should do this. It was all coming from anxiety. So I called it the scared. I was scared. Because I was scary for them. I was my confession is that I'm a recovering perfectionist. In my mind, things have to be perfect. Things have to be this way because it was coming from love. But what I didn't realize, that my need for control was also driving away my children already because they felt that I didn't trust them. And imagine the pressure that it was putting on them to always do the right thing. And so I learned to shift. I don't want to be that scared leader or scared parent. And I decided that I would make a different choice. And I still do that every single day, every single moment. The need to control, the need to create perfection, the need coming from that love that our children are secure and we provide the best from them, that drives us. But it also drives us to drive them away. And we don't want that to happen. I know that it's easier said than done. So the first premise is that it really starts from you to be intentional about what kind of a parent and what kind of a relationship you want to have with your children. It starts with inner peace. And how do you develop inner peace? I heard that one of our counselors say meditation and mindfulness. Yes, it's very, very important. I won't go too much in detail. You can research this, but meditation and mindfulness in the midst of chaos, when everybody is running around, there's so many deadlines, so many things that need to be done, and your thoughts are chaotic. The first thing that we should do is take a pause and just breathe. Even if it's just 4 counts, to take a deep breath and just pause. You can do it in the middle of chaos. Doctors do it in operating rooms. We do it in the midst of the business. The more busy it is, the more we need to take a step back. 4 seconds. Just take 4 seconds of your time to breathe in, hold it, and then breathe out for 4 seconds. I guarantee you that it will help reduce the stress. It will help you make more deliberate and intentional choices as a parent. You don't need to do it long. Of course, it's good. You can also do yoga. You can do mindfulness activities. But just 4 seconds, do 4 by 4 by 4. You know, the navies, the SEALs, they do this. They do 4 by 4. They call it box breathing. Just 4 counts of inhaling, holding it, and then exhaling it. It will really support you. And later, if we have time, maybe we can do it. We can do this also. Another thing that that you can do to be able to take care of yourself is an attitude of gratitude. There is a science to this. It's just it's not just a nice to have. It is an absolute must have. When we're feeling overwhelmed or we're judging our children already, we get so frustrated about you're not studying, you're not doing this. Perhaps it would be great if we take a step back to be able to live in the moment and see, appreciate what they have. You know, the results, this has been studied in UC Berkeley, where they show that the practice of gratitude has actually improved mental health of the practitioners, the people who practice gratitude, and those that they are showing gratitude to by 25%. It also releases this serotonin, or the what is called the mood stabilizer. So when I spiral into doubt, and sometimes as I a good parent, why is my children acting this way? I find it very helpful to look for things that I am grateful about them. Are they healthy? Do they have good manners? Are they compassionate children? Do they have good friends that they support? Do we laugh loud today? Do we share things today? Do they do small chores? You know, what is that little thing that we can be grateful for? And show it to them. Tell them, hey, you know, I had a Lazada delivery today and thank you for receiving it. Or thank you for supporting me in my computer challenges. Or just a little thing that you ask them to support you on. Or just even by bringing the dish on the table or just packing away. You know, thank them. If we want them to grow up to be grateful children, we need to be able to model this behavior. We are who we want them to be. Because even if they don't see it, they don't say it, they actually model and they follow us. The next one is minding your mind or shifting that mind. It's very, very important. We need to be able to cultivate positivity. There are a lot of things we don't control in this pandemic, but there are 4 things that we can control. The first is our thoughts, how we think. Do we think about, I think it was Professor Malu who said that how do we look at our challenges? Do we look at it as opportunities to learn? Or do we look at it as just things that burden us? We can also look at our effort. We can control the effort that where we put in things. You know, we cannot control how often, you know, we can go out because of the lockdown or the granular lockdown if you're experiencing that. But we can control the effort that we exert in terms of connecting with our friends, our family members. We cannot control our actions. So we cannot control the actions of other people, but we can control our actions. So 4 things: we can control our thoughts, we can control our attitude or the way we think of things, we can control the effort that we put into things, and we can control our actions. So we try to stop self-jabbing. You know, jabbing is our self-judgment, our abandoning our best selves, blaming ourselves, and shaming our own selves. So it's not about what we do to our children, it's what we do to ourselves, because we really project. who we are to our children. If we come from anxiety and stress, more often than not, even if you love your children and you want to be the best parents to them, at one point in time, I'm sure you have blown up to them or they have received the brunt of the brunt of your anger or your anxiety. So remember, the quality of thoughts will be the quality of your life. I also share with you some tips for self-care, and I won't go through them. Number one is just really supporting your best. You cannot give from an empty cup. So you need to be able to develop the best version of yourself if you're going to be able to support your children. Second is just enjoy every moment, be present. Our anxiety is rooted in the future. It's like what will happen if, but it's not happening yet. So let's focus on what we can control today at this particular moment. Then loving ourselves to love others. We cannot give what we do not have. So if you're ready, you have to be able to replenish your love tank all the time. Like that's the reason why you do self-care. Replenish it. So the more love you give to yourself, the more love you can share to others. And then forgiving yourself. If you make a mistake, forgive yourself for whatever mistakes you have had in the past. And then connect to others. Our life is not just our family. We need to be able to build connections with other people because the more that we replenish that, the more that we can give of other people. And then acknowledging ourselves. And rest. I mentioned, somebody mentioned earlier, sleep of our children is very more important. But more importantly, our sleep is very important. And then E is express yourself. We need to be able to reach out to our children, to our family, and express to them how we feel. Develop that openness of communication in our family, and then express it to our friends as well. So those are the 8 tips. Now, premise number 2 is that we are wired to connect. The primary goal of our children and all people is belonging and significance. We all need to feel, to see, to hear, and to be valued. And so in the middle of our interaction with them, we need to be able to understand that our children we are all wired to connect. So sometimes you wonder, why do they always have to chat and talk to the other friends? They're spending so much time already on Messenger, on Viber, on whatever platform that they are using, because it's their way to be able to connect to people. So don't take it away from them, because it's very important for them to build this connection, just as it is important for us parents. So the third premise is perspective. So I'd like you to chat in the chat box. So what do you see on your screen? What animal do you see on your screen? Now, if you can please type in the chat box. A frog, yes, a frog. Do you see anything else aside from a frog? I wonder, do you see anything else? A roast chicken? Oh, somebody is hungry. A chicken? I don't see a chicken. A frog. Okay, what else? What else are you seeing? Just a frog. See, if you change your perspective, this frog becomes a horse. Thank you very much, Net Elardo, for seeing a horse. Jan said a horse. Now, if you look at it from this perspective, it's a frog, and then it becomes a horse. And that's just a demonstration of how we and our children think. Their perspective can be so different from us depending on their own experience. And our perspective is so different from them. So sometimes when we try to dictate, to them how we think, that's where the conflict starts. So remember this frog and this horse, because the way we look at the same picture, just tilting it changes our perspective. There. Okay, so let's go to the tips. Number 1 is to understand their behavior. So I'm going to share, a lot of you know this from positive psychology, the cognitive behavioral triangle, that our actions actually spring from our emotions drive our thoughts, and our thoughts drive our behavior. So when you think about your children's behavior, try to understand where they are coming from instead of judging them. So when we talk about it, understand their behavior. When you look at their behavior, every child's behavior is telling us something. Our job is to see the behavior as information and not aggravation. So when they act up and when they do something that you don't agree with, it is just information. Look at it from a very objective perspective and see, what is this behavior telling me? Why is this person acting this way? When you are at work or when you were going to school yourself, didn't we give the people that we were around the benefit of the doubt to understand what they were going through? We owe that same care and that same compassion to our children, even much more. So look at their behavior as a means of information. The second is, let's listen to understand. Let's practice active listening. We start with understanding even when we do not understand. Like sometimes when they do something, we really can't, why are they going to stay up and chat there, but they just chat in the same way over and over again. But they need to be able to do this. Don't interrupt. And the third is really openness. And then eye contact. It's very, very important to be able to practice this. Because if we do not practice eye contact, they feel that they're not, remember, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be valued. Make them feel when you talk to them that you are fully present. How many times when we're so busy that, we think we're listening to them, but okay, talk to me, but you're working, you're doing other things, maybe you're cleaning up the house and they're there talking to you. They feel that they're not valued. So you want them to feel valued by giving your full attention, even no matter what age they are. The third tip is the 3 A's of relationship. Acknowledge. Acknowledge their feelings, acknowledge their behavior, acknowledge their thought process. Affirm that, appreciate that by doing positive talk. Whatever you can to appreciate, even if it's just a small thing. That if there's so many things that your child you feel is doing wrong, still appreciate the good things. And the third is accept. Accept that our children are very different from us, and that they will have different characters, personalities, individual interests. We need to be able to acknowledge that, appreciate, and accept that. Okay, so here's an example of that. For example, Marco says, hey, mom or mama, I'm feeling scared to go to bed. And he's already like 12 years old. And you say, that's okay, Marco. I leave the door open and turn on your night light. And I'll just pop in later to check in on you so you don't get scared. But the not empowering way to talk to your child is say, don't be a big crybaby, Marco. You're old enough to know better than that. Only baby boys get scared. So that's not very positive, right? You already have a judgment that only baby boys cry, or only girls who are not educated do this. So sometimes we actually, in their age, we call it dissing. We diss them. We invalidate. We don't acknowledge their feelings. So it's very important to be able to support them. The fourth is believe in their capacity and potential. We celebrate their success. We represent our child's highest self on what is possible. We need to believe in them. We are the first cheerleaders. Even if they dream of things that you think may not be possible. Imagine if Neil Armstrong's mom did not believe in him that he could go to the moon, then we wouldn't have that man on the moon at that particular time. The fifth is teach your kids how to think, not what to think. Allow them to make mistakes. Learn from the mistakes. That is a process. Allow them to think about solutions. Make them accountable for their own challenges. If they have a problem, you ask them, what do you think is the solution? Hey, Rika, this is what happened because you failed. You failed your grade. How do you think you can solve this? What do you think is in your control? You will be surprised. I have been in parent-teacher meetings where the teacher allows the kids to be the one to solve their own problems, to look at their own grades, as in it's not the parents. So they have low grades. They will be the one to say what they're going to do better in the next semester. The kids are very empowered. Allow them to think about their own solutions. The sixth is connect with empathy. What's the difference between empathy and sympathy? Sympathy is trying to understand your child or children from your own perspective. Oh, when I was a child also, I used to be like that. Or I went through that also when I had my first relationship. So emotional as well. But that sympathy actually infers judgment, because you are judging your action of your child based on how you would act yourself, because you're coming from your own experience. So it drives disconnection because your experience is different from your child's experience. But empathy is understanding from their own perspective, your child's perspective. what is my child going through? And why is my child feeling this way? Not if it was me, I would feel this way. So that's the difference between sympathy and empathy. With empathy, you don't judge them. You don't say, nung bata naman ako, hindi naman ako ganyan. Bakit sila ganito? You don't understand because you're trying to understand. We will never understand them if we always come from our own perspective. We need to understand it from their own perspective. What is their environment now? When we were growing up, we probably didn't have, at least Teacher Gail and I didn't have cell phones. So of course, we did not have that social media, no Facebook at the time. So the influences are very different. So the connection is also try to connect there. So very important, practice empathy. And the seventh tip is appreciative inquiry. Ask open-ended questions. So you ask them, who, where, what, how, when, and a few whys. Don't ask them questions that can be answered by yes or no. Because if you ask them yes or no questions, then they will just answer the shortest way possible. They'll say yes or no. So you ask them who, where, what, how, and when, and a few whys. So for example, what is the consequence if you do this? Or what are the options available for you? Or how do you feel about what happened? Or what do you think is the appropriate consequence? I remember when I decided to become a less scary parent. I started telling them that if there are rules that you don't follow in the house, I'm not going to tell you what the consequence is anymore. I want you, let's plan together what are the consequences. And you know what's really, really surprising? My daughter at the time was 8 years old and my son was 7. What was surprising is they gave very creative, but very severe consequences. Like one said, if I get a bad grade, then I shouldn't play anymore. Like you should ban me from playing. For how long, I said, and I was thinking maybe an hour. He said, ban me for a month. And I go, oh, isn't that too harsh? Yeah, it's harsh, but that's why I shouldn't get a bad grade. Because I'm only 7 years old anyway. Why would I get a bad grade? So as early as that time, they already know how to think about what the consequence is. If it doesn't come from me, then I don't have to forget. Because sometimes, as parents, we forget. We give them a punishment or a consequence, and then we forget what did we say. But if they're the ones who said it, I make them write it. And then I put it on the board, they put it in the board, they remind themselves. I don't even have to remind them. Sometimes they even remind me, hey, why are you still giving me this when I did not fulfill my contract or what I agreed on? And they were at 8, 9. Does it always, I've seen it with other parents who do it, and it can be very successful. We just really need to be consistent. Okay, so my last tip is positive, not punitive positioning. What does that mean? So example, if you don't pack away, you can't go out and play. So that is a punitive or a punishment. If you don't pack away, you can't go out and play. You can change the narrative too. As soon as you pack away, you can go out and play. It's the same thought, but it is more positive. It's more reinforcing. Same words, pack away, go out and play. You just change the narrative of how you deliver it. So it becomes more supportive to them. So example, if you get a failing grade, you cannot play with your PS4. Dear parents, how do you think you can change the narrative of this? If your child gets a failing grade and they like playing PS4, how do you change the narrative of this? How can you change it? Please type this in the chat box if I may request, dear parents. So if you get a failing grade, you cannot play with your PS4. What would you say how would you say it differently? Dear parents, please type in the chat box to see if you are listening. If you get a high grade, yes, you can play with your PS4. Thank you, Christine Carubin. So thank you. If you get good grades, you can enjoy your free time with PS4. If you can get high grades, you can play PS4, right? So imagine the difference. It's the same thought, but you're making it more positive. Now they will focus on, I can play PS4 versus I cannot play PS4. It's just a play of words. It's just changing the narrative. If you or say, if you don't do as I say, I will. How can you change the narrative of this? Hey, if you don't follow me, I will. So how can you change the narrative of this? So Luis said, if you get a good grade, you won't just have a PS4. I will buy you a PS5. I hope that your child is not listening to you and you are ready to buy a PS5 already. So if you get good grades, you can do anything. Yeah, so if you don't do as I say, what I will. So how can you change the narrative of that? If you don't do as I say, I will. If you follow mama, we can. Yes. Let's work on it together. Yes. It becomes more collaborative rather than me telling you what to do. You know, you're more directive. Let's work on it together. I love this. So see, parents, you already know how to do this. Okay, what are the quick techniques? Just be consistent. Whatever you're going to do, whatever technique that you picked up from our talks earlier in my talk, just be consistent. Don't keep on changing. Like today, I'm going to be empowering. Tomorrow, I'll be distrusting. You know, if you stop nagging, try to stop nagging continuously. Be consistent. Second is be curious. Be curious why they think that way. Try to understand it from their perspective. The third is practice openness. Just be open. You know, we're lucky we have all of these talks. When we were children, you know, when we were becoming parents, we did not have any talks like this. So we were trying out new things. We were learning as we go along. So we try to practice openness and then don't stack. This is my favorite because nobody told me this. Stacking means you tell them things and then you keep on telling and telling them. For example, you say, hey, Andrea, if you after you eat, you pack away, then you wash your hands, and then you take a bath, then you do your homework. And then you can play with the cat. What do you think they're going to remember with all of these things that you stack them on? They will remember. You can play with the cat. So they will start playing with the cat because you told them 5 things. So if you wanted to do something, keep it simple, just one thought. You can say, pack away. After the pack away, then you say whatever, or you can just tell them what is the routine that we agreed upon. You know, just do it. And if they know the consequences already, imagine if like Luis, you tell them, if you do your chores or your routine at night consistently for 1 month, you can get a PS5. Don't you think they're going to do it? And then give them a board where they're going to check themselves. You know, it's really self-management. They will check themselves. The younger they are, the more that they're going to be willing to do this. They're going to check themselves. Today I was able to do it. They're going to count 30 days because they want that PS4 or whatever it is that they want. It can be a Barbie doll. It can be a new iPhone, whatever it is that you're going to give them anyway, right? On their birthday or on Christmas or whenever they get really good grades. But you're just giving them a reason to work for it. And then don't take it personally. Sometimes when our children do something, we feel it's a reflection of our parenting. What will people say? Na hindi ako mabuting parent. Ano kaya sasabihin nila? Don't take it personally. It's not about us. It's about them. Imagine, remember, their behavior, it's just information. It's just telling us something. It is not about us. So sometimes, you know, let's not take it personally. Let's be objective about it. And then try to always take a moment to self-reflect. You know, these opportunities like this, we're very lucky because we have now opportunities to be able to self-reflect, to learn about this for people, for Miriam to be able to have talks like this. I wish I had this when I was a new parent. Of course, my kids are already old, but I did not have this opportunity. So take the time to self-reflect and iterate and adjust. Like I did, I realized, oh gosh, I was a scared mother, scared leader. And because of the feedback that was given to me, in my self-reflection, I decided to choose differently. And still, every day is a moment of choice. I still sometimes look up. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. But what I am sharing with you is actually what I have learned from experience, from my iteration. So to sum it all up, what are the 7 coaching strategies that I shared with you? Number 1, understand the behavior. 2, listen to understand them. Don't listen to reply. Don't listen to respond. Listen to understand. 3rd is accept, acknowledge, and appreciate. The 4th is believe in their potential. The 5th is teach them to think, teach them to solve, teach them to do things. Don't tell them how to do it. The 6th is connect with empathy, not with sympathy. And the last is practice appreciative inquiry or the open-ended questions. And with that, when in doubt, there will always be, I shared so much today, pack day, you heard so much from the 3 counselors, from Professor Gail, from my share. And it can be very overwhelming. we have set ways of parenting. So I leave you with one thought. When in doubt, love will always be the answer. So just ask yourself, what would love do? How can we treat our children with love so we can become better parents? And I have figured out that I don't want to be perfect. I can't even be perfect, even if I wanted to be. It's a terrible strain. But what I strive to do is to be loving, honest, consistent, and available to my children emotionally. And it really comes from a space of love. So I'd like to thank you for your time today, and I wish you a really great day. And I hope that you can show your love and appreciation to your children and create peace in your lives. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
From this forum, we learned that there are many things that present itself to be stressful to our children at home. Poor internet connectivity, noise, being made to do chores while having online classes, add to the psychological burden students carry on top of meeting the many academic requirements they have in their respective online classes. Many times, they create space in their minds by listening to music, playing games, watching YouTube videos, and chatting with their friends, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So instead of constantly reminding our children to do their homework or to stop playing, parents may want to try being a coach parent instead of a control parent. A coach parent listens to understand instead of listens only to reply. A coach parent helps children to think for themselves so that children can work their way through adversity. So in the coming days, try to listen actively to your children without interrupting, by maintaining eye contact, by opening yourself to learn new things from them. Let us have more faith in our children so that they will flourish and have inner peace in their lives. Remember that inner peace is the heartbeat of world peace. Thank you for sharing this sacred space with us, only here in our peaceful classroom.